Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's really an honor to take part in this conference. This is me, and could go to the second slide, I think, now, just to show you the parliament. I think unlike the other parliament, the Kurdistan Parliament is probably not known for many outsiders. It has this Soviet architecture building. It was built during Saddam time as kind of location for autonomy that kind of came in 70s. And later on, probably it was closest thing to the parliament. So when in 1991, the uprising happened, and in 1992, when Iraqi government left, could go to the other slide. The region, then it became the building of the parliament. To give us some background to it, everything dates back to 90s when Iraq invaded Kuwait, and that was a major event in Iraq's history. Falh Jabir, the Iraqi great sociologist, says that from that point on, Iraq entered the era of non-state. So Iraq lost the war, and then embargo happened, and the whole state apparatus is basically turned to dysfunctional machines. And then uprising happened. United States somehow hinted the people, especially the Kurd and the Shia, that they could uprise against the Saddam and they will get help, but they didn't get help at the right time. They didn't get help during the uprising, so Saddam was able to crush. But nevertheless, he could not control the whole territory of the country. I think this territory has been a big problem throughout Iraqi history since 20s, since the British in kind of made up that country. That has been so that the territorial control has been one of the big issue for the central government. So the weak center and defeated Saddam could not hold the whole country. So decided to withdraw from the Kurdish area because it was difficult to control. It has no resources, and it's mountains, and not easy for an army who is not from the local to hold power. So the kind of withdrawal was easier choice in order to maintain the center. And then a vacuum emerged. There are hints. There are no kind of really proof document, but there are hints from leader of the region that the United States told the main political party there that they could hold election there. And that was the turning point, the election that held in 1992. You could go to the next one. It became a base for many things in the region. It started as kind of give legitimacy to the political party, and also a new form of politic, that parliamentary politic. That was a big shift from guerrilla mountain fighting, and then turning up to become democratic, parliamentary, taking part in election and accepting winning or losing. So these things did not go that smooth. But I will link that to the whole global era at that time when Berlin Wall was fallen and Eastern Europe, similar post-dictator regime emerged, and United States was as I think Wolfowitz put it, it was kind of a peace dividends era. So what they were talking about New World Order, and in that way they kind of start the process of Americanization or democratization. So I think that goes into that lane that supported Kurds in order to hold an election and have parliament. And that goes also in a process of nation building and state building in the region. And somehow some scholars see contradiction or paradox in that, because in the age of neoliberalism, creating a new center or a center is kind of counter to the whole weakening center by neoliberalism. But in another way, it was decentralizing the state in Iraq and creating or kind of establishing premises for emergence of decentralized federal Iraq, which is now constitutionally it is. But the Kurd basically did not get the message or did not follow the whole kind of steps of the moving to a parliamentary democracy. Are just a few years later they started the civil war. So the parliament, from uprising to parliament to civil war, that has impacted the nature of the politics until now. We could go to the other one, Steve. Thank you. So the civil war continued until 1998. It was on and off, and United States, Madeleine Albright was the main person who brought the two sides into the peace. But so far, the people who fought the war, called Peshmerga, they are still not unified, and they're still divided. And there is a big program by United States and NATO how to unify these forces and make them a partner on the ground, part of the policy of no boots on the ground by the United States. For me, the 19th beginning, starting with the parliament as a huge multifaceted process of nation building and ending up with unify or Peshmerga or building up an army, it hints the whole process of US engagement with the Middle East, starting with the nation building and ending up with having a partner on the ground, which is somehow a preparation for departing of the country. And coming back to the parliament stayed as mainly representing the two parties, PUK, Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, and Kurdistan Democratic Party. And the two party, they could not accept losing, so they decided to share the governing 50-50. The 50-50 became the way of kind of divide while together. So the two parallel government or governmentality emerged at the same time. That continued until 2009, when a new political party or a movement emerged called Goran, Kurdish for Change. And that was for first time opposition emerged in the parliament. So the process of parliamentarization from a kind of very marginalized institution moved to the center when opposition emerged with 24% of the votes, and that translated into 24 seats in 100 seats in the parliament, and challenged the rhetoric or discourse of the old government and impacted the whole information and the level of knowledge among the popular constituency or people. And for the first time, people got aware of budget and transparency, check and balance, representation, division of power. So these all new concept emerged in 2009 on. So it became kind of a vocabulary of a daily politic in the region, and it challenged the status quo. From 2000 on, and with the emergence of the parliament, we could talk about parliament became an institution that people hoped that they could through the parliamentary system, change the system into more open, transparent, and accessible and less corrupt. So from that, that's one of the premise of the argument that parliament became close to the people, and people built hope on the parliament. We could go to the next one. But elite did not accept that easily. Elite had to come back, especially the old traditional elite who fought in the mountain and in 19 came down and became the main politician in the cities. So they were not willing to give up. They were not willing to accept the losses, and especially they had this paramilitary and militia close to their political party. So there a kind of a polarized society emerged with the people who hoped that through parliamentary system they could change the system, but the elite had to come back and kind of limit the role of the parliament, don't make parliament docile. When in 2014, 2015, when parliament challenged seriously the old system, the then president of the Kurdistan intervened and stopped the speaker of the parliament from carrying on his duty, and parliament stopped for almost 2 years until the next election after that. So that was the moment when parliament, from a challenge to the system, became a very kind of marginalized system. So that there the conflict emerged between people who had hope on the parliament and then lost hope in the parliament, and elite who were afraid of the parliament, and then they had to tame the parliament. So and that the title of the presentation then, Parliament stuck in the middle. People hope that institution will bring a new democracy, representation, openness, liberal, but the elite were not willing or not ready to accept that. Then the parliament as an institution stuck in the middle between people and the elite who want the parliament to be kind of rubber stamp somehow, but the people want to be a real institution, to have check and balance, and be able to like have a channel of influencing and representing them. And this also impacted the nature of the understanding of the politics, from high hope into kind of loss of hope. The hope here is one of the main concepts now. If you listen to people, they say, we had hope, and then now the institution or the whole politic is hopeless. So from having hope to, from high expectation to no hope, is a big shift, and also represents probably many kind of new democracy around the world. And that's the base where populism emerged in many countries. And still in Kurdistan, there's small parties who are trying to engage with the people in a populism way, but so far I think there's no the way that we see it elsewhere, that in Turkey or in Hungary or in Trump type, there's no such thing yet emerged. Probably there are still the old traditional party are strong. But there, as a result of that, there's a disenchantment with the politic, which might go bad, or also probably set a base for a realistic, more kind of up-to-date politics, rather than high hope or high expectation when you have no institution and no premises, and also in a very fragile country and a very fragile system. We could go to the next one.
There's about 1 more minute left, if that's okay.
There are other factors contributing the weak parliament, like parties still strong, There's no culture of the parliament in the region. The Kurdistan Regional Parliament is the only regional parliament in the Middle East. And actually in the Middle East in general, apart from Kuwaiti parliament and Jordanian somehow, except Knesset in Israel, the parliament is very weak institution. And that has also to do with the location or a position of people within the politics in the region. I think we could talk about that, and now we live in a kind of age of rationalized parliament, if I borrow from the French model, which the elite want to shape the parliament the way they want. And I think I could conclude if I have 1 minute, if I go to as I say, we could talk about 3 stages of the parliament. Initially was novel and modest, but not playing big role in the politics, represent the 2 main political party. And then opposition emerged and became a strong institution and challenging the old system. After that, I think a rationalization or a marginalization, and some people call it deparliamentarization, that the current parliament might not act as a parliament or not play the role of the parliament, but that it's comparison to the high time when it was challenging. So that's how this institution or the current parliament stuck in the middle between the elite and the people, and none of them are happy with it. One is seen as kind of not representing fully the population, the other sees as a challenge has to be shaped, I think. And I think as a result of that, new media, as a previous speaker talked about, I think new media has replaced parliament in many ways, which has good and bad in many ways. Thank you very much.